All right, what was it like for Wells' family during the time after the towers crashed?
It was probably the most horrible time of their lives. Their son was missing, and they're frantically looking for him, making phone calls. They were they gave his DNA, and just hold on 1 second, please.
Yeah, sure.
Sam, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
They had given DNA and photos, and they were hoping beyond hope that they could somehow made it out of the building. And then after a little 3, 4, 5, 6 days, they realized that he didn't make it, and that was even worse because they knew he perished. And so, unfortunately, it was a very tough time for them. And then they had a funeral, memorial service. I wouldn't call it a funeral because there was no body.
Oh.
They had a memorial service for him about a month after the 9/11 disaster, and it was packed. You couldn't even get into the church. There were 1,000 people outside the church, and it's still hard for them. They cry every day for their son. It's been just a horrible, horrible thing for any parent to have to go through.
Yeah. How did the story, after they found out all the his heroics and everything that he did to save people's lives, how did the story take off and gain publicity after the initial finding?
Well, when Allison read the New York Times article that described 2 women who were saved and led up and out by a man with a red bandana, instantly she knew that was Wells, and she, because Wells always carried this red bandana, so she sends photos to both the women who positively ID'd him. And then in August, so now this is, quite some time.
Yeah.
They met, so they found out in May, but it wasn't until, because the New York Times article came out May 26th.
Oh, wow.
Of 2002. So 8 months, they just know he died, and that was it. And then, because the Times article and getting confirmation with the photographs, that the survivors positively ID'd, they knew that they were talking about Wells, and they wanted more details, obviously. So they met with the 2 women at their home, and they learned how he, put out fires and extricated people that trapped. He carried a woman on his shoulder down 17 flights. So it was certainly did not eliminate their pain and their grief. They still cry for their son, but it allowed them to change their perspective on their loss and maybe take a little bit of the edge off, maybe make them feel a little bit better about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Then a reporter heard about it, and then another reporter, and then the NBC News did a piece about Wells, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
All right, thank you. What made you intrigued to want to get involved with the story and direct the film?
I just thought it was incredible. Wells' heroics, obviously, and his courage and selflessness, but also how a piece of fabric, a bandana, could allow the Crowther family to have a little less grief and have a different perspective on their loss. It would allow them, this bandana, to realize that he died saving others. He died on his free will. He wasn't trapped. He could have left. but he
Yeah.
decided to stay and help others. And I just thought it was incredible that all this information and his legacy, how he's remembered and honored, is all connected to this bandana. I just thought it was an incredible story that everyone should hear. And so that's why that was my motivation for getting it out there. I hope that as many people see the film that I made as possible. Have you seen it, by the way?
Yeah, I have. It's really well done film. With all the,
Thank you.
Like cutting to all the people talking, and I didn't even know President Obama like did the talk, but I've been to the memorial in New York, and I've been a big follower of like his parents in the Boston College game. So it's just for my social studies, I thought it'd be a great piece to try to put together for my classroom.
100%. It'll be great, and I'm sure your classmates will enjoy your presentation and hearing about Wells. So, for me, I just think in this world there's not enough giving and selflessness, and Wells' story obviously is the ultimate sacrifice. And I felt if people heard the story, it would encourage them to think a little less about themselves and more about others. And so that's what motivated me. The story that was great, and hopefully the impact it should have on others.
All right. Where were you personally, like that horrible day when the towers were struck?
I was in New York going to court. I'm an attorney as well as a filmmaker, and I just heard that there was a plane that hit the first tower, and I thought it was a small little plane. Maybe someone had a heart attack or something. Never thought it would be a commercial airliner with all these people on it. And then when I finished my court engagement, I saw one of my lawyer friends in the same building, and he told me it was a second plane and that it was a terrorist attack, and that was where I was, and very upsetting. And I had an attorney who worked for me. He was downtown, right near the incident. He actually had to run from the collapsing building and the smoke, and called me. I'll never forget that phone call. He was out of breath and distraught. Yeah, so I certainly had, some impact, even though I wasn't personally there.
What surprised or stood out to you most in making the film? And if there's like one thing that you learned from the whole experience, what would it be?
Well, what surprised me was that despite not having any experience in making a film, not having read a book or taking a class in filmmaking, what surprised me was that with passion, which I had to share the story, I was able to get it done, and we've won awards and been at film festivals. We've released it coast to coast theatrically, and for a documentary, that's a big deal. Most documentaries don't get any theatrical release. Think about the last time you went to see a documentary in a movie theater. Most people don't do that.
Yeah.
You go and you see feature films, but you're not going to go see a doc in most cases. So that was the most surprising. And what was the second part of your question?
What was like one thing you learned from the experience?
I learned that I have a creative side, that I hadn't been exploiting. And I was able to tap into. And so, for me, that's what I learned. But on Wells' story, a lot of people have shared that story. And as the filmmaker, I didn't want to just rehash a story that had already been told. I wanted to add to it, advance the story. And so my goal was to research and find information about Wells, things in there that I'm proud about, but one of which is I found some survivors that Wells had saved that even his parents didn't know about, and then they were even able to meet them, and the survivors were able to thank the Crowthers. So to me, that was really rewarding as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just have one more question, and what kind of legacy do you want his story to leave on the world, and like through the documentary and like the Boston College game every year?
Sure. I hope that the doc and Wells' story encourages people to be better people, to think less about themselves and a little bit more about others. And Wells Wells has an incredible legacy, obviously, and I hope that people are always talking about his story and remember his story because, you know, there's a lot of great lessons in there for people.
All right, thank you. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I know it's taking time out of your day, but I really.
No problem. Are you doing a report? Or are you doing a video? What are you going to do with it?
So I'm gonna try to throw together